There we go.
Pinch hit and I get the first seat. Look at that.
Look at that. All right, well, welcome back. My name is Matt, and I work in customer success at Ticket Manager, and looking forward to moderating our next discussion, making every ticket count. This conversation is going to be all about maximizing the business value of every ticket and event, ensuring transparency, driving measurable outcomes, and keeping compliance at the forefront. I couldn't be more pleased to welcome Jeff, Rob, and Susan to our panel today, so we'll do a quick introduction and dive in. So Jeff is Branding Advisor, Sponsorship Analytics and Operations at Evernorth Health Services, a subsidiary. Thanks for making me say
Other way around.
Thanks for making me say subsidiary in your bio, where he leverages his deep expertise in sponsorship, analytics, and marketing operations to enhance brand management and measurable impact. With prior experience spanning finance and marketing roles, Jeff brings a unique blend of analytical rigor and brand strategy into his current role. He holds an MBA in marketing from the SMU Cox School of Business and resides in the Charlotte area. And a special thanks to Jeff because he is pinch hitting for one of our panelists that got sick, unfortunately, last week. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Next, Rob Smith. He's the Head of Business Administration for U.S. Distribution at Franklin Templeton, one of the industry's largest independent asset managers. With over 25 years of experience in financial services, his leadership and expertise drive a culture of innovation and collaboration. He leads cross-enterprise initiatives to enhance client experience and enhance operations. He builds high-performing teams to support Franklin Templeton's U.S. distribution organization and ensures seamless execution of the company's strategic priorities. Previously, Rob served as the head of sales services at Legg Mason prior to its acquisition by Franklin Templeton. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
All right, last but not least, Susan Stone is a U.S. marketing leader at PwC, where she oversees the firm's go-to-market strategy across regions, industries, and client segments. With over 25 years of marketing leadership experience, Susan brings a unique ability to align brand, strategy, and business development in ways that drive measurable growth and lasting client relationships. Prior to her current role, Susan served as PwC's National Marketing Director for nonprofit relationships and sponsorships, leading the firm's strategy for civic, charitable, and industry engagement across the U.S. She also spent a decade as PwC's Southwest marketing leader, managing fully integrated data-driven marketing programs in a $1 billion market, helping activate the firm's brand throughout community engagement, partnerships, and targeted client initiatives. So before we dive in, I'm super excited about this conversation. This is really a dream team of partners who we've had the pleasure of working with for close to 10 years. This panel is really representative of the strength of the Ticket Manager community, because as you can see, they sit in three very different roles within their organizations. And that's very common for our partners at Ticket Manager. There's no one area that handles ticket management and hospitality exclusively. And coincidentally, I introduced Rob to Jeff about 3 years ago at Summit 2022 as Franklin Templeton was evaluating ticket management solutions. So they talked, and here we are a few years later as a happy customer, and now we got you on stage. And with PwC, it started as just a small single market pilot that has grown into a global engagement. They use just about everything you've seen out there at the education stations. And it's been a tremendous relationship. So again, I want to encourage and echo what Tony said earlier. Come talk to these folks, their teams that are here, talk to each other. There's a ton of insights to be had, not only on strategic initiatives, but also in just day-to-day tactical operations in the world of managing tickets. So let's dive in. We've got a marketer, an auditor, and a salesman walking into the bar. So let's see what they have to say. So let's get started. For a fun note for the audience, Susan, we'll start with you. What's your most memorable sports or live event moment, and why does it stand out?
Well, as I was telling you backstage, I am not a sports person at all. So kind of shocking that we manage all these tickets, and I really just am not that excited about it. But I can tell you that I was fortunate enough to attend what I would call the Super Bowl of the entertainment industry events. I got to go to the Oscars and walk the red carpet and just had an amazing experience. But funny enough, the most standout moment from the evening was the valet line, because every star has to go through the valet line. So you're standing there and you have to wait like 20 to 30 minutes to get your car. So my husband was melting because he was right next to Charlize Theron, and he managed to engage a full conversation with her for the full 20 minutes that we were standing. But it was quite special evening, and that's my standout moment.
Amazing. Rob?
So I took the question a little differently and maybe more of a grainy perspective even. It was my favorite sports memory, so I'm a Knicks and Mets lifelong fan. It's almost 100 seasons, one championship. So the 86 Mets, the season, had the opportunity to go to a few games that year, didn't go to the NLCS or Epic World Series against Houston and Boston, but that's the one memory that sticks most in my mind as my lifelong, and Matt and I have talked about all the great events over 30 years that we've been able to go to in our careers here. But that's the most memorable, I would say, sports memory. I had my 12th birthday at MSG for a Knicks game. I'd say in person, that one sticks. Not, back then that was kind of special. 88, 89 season, Knicks were pretty good, and Jordan knocked them out in the playoffs, unfortunately.
He had a habit of that.
Yeah, did that every now and again. But that's a good one for me.
Awesome. Jeff?
Yeah, going to the Kentucky Derby in person after having watched it for 40-something years on the television. There's nothing like being there in person. Do it if you have the chance. And then my favorite kind of work-related one was standing at the golf tournament, chatting with somebody in a hallway, and I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I look, oh, excuse me, and Rory McIlroy was trying to get to the locker room, and I was impeding him. So, it was fun. Only in this business can that happen.
Indeed. Well, let's talk big picture for a minute. Would love to hear a quick overview of how you've approached ticket management and hospitality in your organizations, and what the big goals are for your organization. So we'll go right back down the line with Jeff.
Yeah, perfect. We are super customer-focused, business growth-minded. So hospitality is becoming a bigger platform for us. It is about how we entertain and build relationships and create meaningful memories so that we have better working relationships. So it's becoming more and more of a core of what we do every day at the Cigna Group. It's great. That's kind of the raison d'etre for it for us.
Rob?
I think similarly, we have huge goals and a long list, and so I would think of it in several ways. So one is we want to optimize every asset we have. We've moved way past making sure every ticket gets used. This is really how do we use data? How do we get all the tickets in the right, most optimal hands to leverage with the best opportunities with clients? So that's one. Two, how do we create unique experiences and marquee experiences? How do we activate the events that we're doing that have a lot of eyeballs on them? And three, how do we create an efficient process around it and manage it all and centralize it? And we're going to talk about that, I'm sure.
I think for us, we find that it's getting harder and harder to get our C-suite executives out to programs and events and get meetings with them. It's much easier to invite them to a exclusive event and create that touch point. And it really does give you access to them for an extended period of time that is pretty unique that you wouldn't be able to do in just in a normal meeting. So we've really invested heavily in our hospitality assets because we see it as a great opportunity to get extended time in front of buyers that we may not normally be able to get just through a standard meeting. So that's a big reason for our assets. But ROI is key for us, and it's all about the data as to what kind of relationships we're driving through these investments. So big priority for us.
And PwC has tickets everywhere, right? So talk to us about the decision to centralize that process. I mentioned we started with just one market, years ago, but What went into that thought process, say, hey, we have to get our arms around this?
Well, we have, I think it's 56 different venues, 63 teams, not to mention concerts and everything else. So it was crazy. And at the time, it was being managed by the local marketing teams, like my old team in the Southwest market, in spreadsheets, through email outreach, and you had the hard tickets like they were talking about earlier in a drawer that you were handing out. It just wasn't feasible. It wasn't manageable. It also wasn't providing any kind of visibility across the country as to what assets were in the market. It was dependent upon the local office sending out emails saying, hey, we have tickets for this, weekend. So by centralizing the tickets in one location, not only were you creating the efficiencies from administration around them, but we also created visibility across the country for the assets that we owned. And many of our partners, they may live in New York, but they're working LA clients, and they had no access or visibility into what there was to be able to leverage to connect with their clients. So by centralizing it, it created the efficiencies around admin, but it also created visibility and increased usage really with our key clients in the market.
So Rob, dive into some of the headaches that Franklin Templeton was trying to solve for.
Susan touched on one, which was the centralization. So one headache was just transparency. Similarly, local markets, those local people would be the only ones that knew about the assets, knew to ask about them. We have several business lines underneath the Franklin Templeton business, and so there were people from other businesses that just had no idea at all what assets we had. And again, clients can be willing to travel for major events, and that would just go undetected if you didn't have it centrally available. So that was a major headache. I would say another major headache, moving beyond the paper tickets days, even just getting the digital asset tickets and so forth onto people's phones. You have one person controlling it. If they're not available at 6 o'clock at night, right before an event, what happens if that person can't get their ticket onto their phone? And so trying to solve for that, Ticket Manager obviously has a great solution, team in place to help navigate that. And really being able to evaluate what the ROI was another one. Again, you're not maximizing the tickets. The last thing you're looking at is ROI. And so we wanted to move more into being able to manage through that. And then the last one is, how do you evaluate the properties as a whole? Like, which properties do you want to add? Which properties do you want to move away from? And we were spending all our time doing the day-to-day logistics. We weren't really thinking about that. So those were a long list of headaches.
And Jeff, we worked together at Wells Fargo for a number of years. You moved on to Cigna. What were some of the headaches that you had to solve for right away coming in?
It was funny. So before I got there, the system had been set up and it was implemented and it was being used sporadically. So the big challenge was just adoption, getting people involved. We had some groups that were really good at it, some that weren't. We kind of, decentralized. We have different geographical regions that were responsible for what was going on in their local markets. Some did a better job than others, totally fine. But the good thing was we had identified key people in those markets to work with. So it was a matter of coming in and working with them, saying, look, I can make your life easier. I can make it faster. I can take some stress off of you. Like, let's chat. And people were super willing to hear that, right? You can do all that. It's not often we can actually deliver, but Ticket Manager helped us do that, and we are now capturing. We're always missing something, right? You can't be 100%, but we're really good, and we're seeing utilization climb from before I arrived. We were 50%, something like that was actually being captured. They were being used, we just didn't know it. Now we're sitting at 90%. So it's been a huge climb, and it's made a huge difference to have that data and have that efficiency gain.
Adoption is a common challenge, right? Rolling out new systems across organizations, it's never seamless. You're going to get pushback, right? We see it. Susan, I'm curious, how do you deal with the pushback, especially in the partner environment where they're paid to bill hours, right? Not to request tickets, right? They're used to a different process. How do you deal with the pushback both up and down the org chart?
You empower the army of the executive assistant. Because you're right, the partners are not going to go in for the most part and access the tickets. So our system's open so that they can empower others to handle that for them. But that said, as technology, someone said earlier, we all are used to making our own hotel reservations and our own airline. So it's second nature now. And we find that initially we had major pushback. The partners didn't want to do it. They would call their marketing teams and ask the marketing teams to submit on their behalf. But nowadays, to be honest, they're all in there all the time requesting tickets. So it's really just not an issue any longer.
Rob, you've rolled out the most recent out of the 3 organizations. So what were some of the challenges initially?
So initial challenges and how we overcame them. One, the transparency that you get from just, even though the salespeople may not put the request in themselves, the fact that they can go in and see what's available as a starting point without having to ask anyone questions is a huge efficiency. Obviously enable support teams across the enterprise to put the requests in. We're going to talk a little bit about CRM, but we have a robust process. We spent probably more time than most clients building our workflow. So it is complicated, but it's important for a lot of reasons. I'd say the other big hurdle, or the other way we overcame a big hurdle, is single sign-on is huge. And we have different aspects of our enterprise and people coming in through different ways, and it all is seamless through single sign-on. And so that was a big win when we were able to get that to work right out of the gate. And so I think adoption, this is something people are excited about. So sometimes, we're not asking them to take a test. We're asking them to ask for sports and hospitality tickets through a new platform. And so we had some pretty exciting adoption. They knew, I don't have to know who to call or email. I can just go to this one link every time. We did a huge blast on our company intranet when we first started, just big splash right on the homepage. This is new, it's out there, we're excited about it. And this is how we're going to handle the process going forward. And we never look back.
Very cool. Once the system is set, the rules are set, the value has to show up. And we've actually got a great question from the audience. So as a reminder, text your questions to the number up top. But Jeff, the business has made a pretty big splash into the NBA and NFL most recently. So specifically with your deal with the NFL, how do you choose which teams and markets to invest in for team deals versus an overall league deal, in either case, NFL or NBA?
Yeah, I mean, it's both, but really it comes down to really deep, really strong relationships with our sales teams, because they're ultimately the ones using these tickets. So where we have large presence, maybe it's underserved, maybe we have clients who just need time in front of them. As Susan mentioned earlier, time with who we sell to is the hardest thing to get. When you're struggling to get a 15-minute meeting and suddenly you can say, well, come hang out with us for 4 hours, and they say yes, that's gold. And this is one way to get that done. And so we really let the sales teams drive where we need to be. We try not to say, this is what we're doing, here it is, have at it. It's about, what do you need? The way I approach it is, our internal sales teams, they're my customers, right? Like, they have their customers, but they're mine. And I need to take care of them first and foremost. And if you're gonna sell anything, you gotta sell something that the customers want. So if we have a deal with the Arizona Cardinals, right, in Phoenix. So if I went to that team and said, hey, I can get you an NFL game, but it's in Atlanta, they're gonna laugh at me and tell me to go away, right? So I have to meet them where they are. And that's been the biggest thing, is developing those relationships, knowing what they need, and then responding accordingly. Makes a huge difference.
All right, we're going to switch back to the adoption and change management topic here. From another great question from the audience. So Susan, we'll start with you. So just in your experience, right? It doesn't have to be Ticket Manager, it could be anything. When dealing with a new technology, right, how do you deal with that pushback with the employees that are resistant to change? So in your case, you're empowering the EAs, but they may be pushing back as well. So how do you deal with that, who don't want, when you've moved their cheese a little bit?
And nobody likes their cheese moved, we know that. I think that change management is very difficult for a lot of people. I think the more communication and training you provide around it, when we initially rolled out Ticket Manager, there were major sessions that people were invited to attend. But I feel like the ticket manager system and most of the systems we implement at our firm are kind of self-taught, and they're so user-friendly that in today's world, everything we do, you have to navigate technology. So as long as you make it intuitive and you provide the right tools for people to resource, information from, we don't have as much of a problem with adoption of the tools. We did recently also just create a whole SharePoint site that houses all of our assets, all of the FAQs, how you do it, who can ask. I mean, every question you could possibly imagine is in this SharePoint site to try to alleviate some of the questions and adoption issues that we've had. I mean, it's literally screenshots. Click on this button, and do all of that. And it's now at their fingertips that they can go in and resource.
Yeah, we've seen the inbox. It got insane there for a little while. So it was great to centralize all of that. I think going back to your comment about getting targeted time with the C-suite, right? I would imagine in every single one of your businesses that your customers are being hit up by either competitors or things that are not even direct competitors, but other things to do, depending on the market you're in, or just other systems that they run or relationships that they have. What are some best practices to create a unique invite or experience that's going to get them coming to your event? So Susan, I'd love to start with you.
I think the hospitality events are a little bit different than like a normal marketing event. The teams kind of speak for themselves oftentimes, and it's not a difficult ask. But we also will occasionally try to create groupings. So like it's CFO night in the 49ers suite or something like that, because one thing that we have heard from our clients is they really like the opportunity to network with their peers in an informal environment. And we've been trying to do more of that. So grouping people has been helpful in helping to bring people out, give them the experience of not only enjoying the event, but having a real connection point with peers is a big selling point too.
Rob, how do you guys make it unique?
Yeah, so we have an amazing events team, and like I mentioned earlier, some of those marquee experiences, if we have just a handful of them, and we know we're trying to get the C-suite client base out to them, being early to market and creating, like Susan said, the hospitality around that, and just a unique experience that just helps drive those relationships forward. And by singling, trying to define some very key events, it's worked in our favor. And the routine day in and day out events, right, we can take that, and Ticket Manager helps us. So the efficiency makes us able to focus on those other events in a special way, create a special experience.
And Jeff, how do you create those unique experiences to get their attention?
We have a great sponsorships team who are event planners. They are ticket broker. They are everything. And they do an awful lot. And so like NFL, the NBA, health summits tied around tentpole events. So how do we bring the story of the Cigna Group into the sports world with a captive audience, right? How do we tell how we're influencing what we're doing with the league to what's relevant to their businesses? It's a lot. We're a small but mighty team. Some of us are here, but we're going nonstop, and it's all about keeping it focused on what can we deliver with the message of where we are, how we're paired with the league and the team, and then what we can show how that can benefit them and their businesses. Again, it's us, it's the sales teams, it's everybody related to Cigna. We do things with the CEO. We're up and down and everywhere. We are the busiest team in the company, but we're always focused on making it a little bit more, right? Trying a little bit more, and that makes a difference for us.
Matt, I'd also like to add that one of the things we've been really focused on too is making sure that when we're securing assets, that we're really thinking about the client experience and making sure it's an elevated experience so it best represents our brand. So not just buying tickets to something, but really thinking about what's going to be the best possible experience for the client, because that's going to help drive the usage, but also really give them a better impression of our brand.
We've talked a lot about what the brands are doing, how you're doing it. So now, how do we know it's working, right? The three-letter acronym, ROI, that everybody wants to talk about. It's different from sponsorship to hospitality and ticketing. So talk a little bit about your specific ROI models, right? What you're measuring, how you're measuring it, what are all the inputs that go into that for our audience. So Rob, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So we spent a lot of time working with our intelligence teams on what we would want a hospitality ROI dashboard to look like. And the way the way the sausage is made is all of our ticket manager data, the client information goes in on the front end. That's how we approve it through, and then we're able to load it all to CRM. And the dashboards we developed, I would also say, our client base is varied, right? So you have specific buying units, but also you have centers of influence out there, executives from partner firms, all kinds of, it's a mixed array of the client base we're entertaining. And so trying to measure different things where it may be impactful. So we specifically measure and show in all the reporting, we show engagement following the event. So 30, 60, 90, 120 days out. And then also, of course, we look at sales data. And right, so there's nuances to that because some of the most high-profile clients we may have out may have no sales related directly to them. And that's a known aspect of the way we're showing the reporting. But it is important to have. We do look at it, and it's, it was definitely only since we launched Ticket Manager that we've had sort of insight into that data.
And Susan, how about PwC?
We primarily focus on, I would say, revenue and pipeline that's present in the room at the time. That's something we look at. Also, the 30, 60, 90, what meetings were, drawn from that are probably the key things. But we also rely a lot on anecdotal from our partners. They get feedback from their clients saying, wow, that was an amazing experience. And, there's not always a short-term play, and oftentimes there's a longer play there. So we kind of take all things into consideration.
With all of our best efforts, sometimes seats still go unused, right? Through the sales team's efforts, the sponsorship team, et cetera. So Jeff, talk to us a little bit about your approach to that, when we're thinking about how to allocate tickets for proper usage and what you do when you have things left over.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I had some tickets last night that went unused and it hurt. So it's a combination of things, right? We work really closely with our local teams. They manage a lot. They know who to reach out to when they need to. We have one side of the house is a pretty nascent brand. They haven't ever really done hosting. They're about a year in, so we're still learning. They're still learning. They're still adapting, and they're the ones that struggle the most on this. We've done communications, trying to get people to, hey, we have these things. Are you interested? We found out that unlike, Robbie, you sent out with like the group email and got traction, we got nothing. Turns out no one reads those emails, but we adopted and we found out like, oh, if this comes from my email address, then people respond, right? So it's the willingness to see what happens, take it in, ingest it, and then do something different if you didn't get the result you wanted. So we use that. We also utilize the resell through Ticket Manager. So if we're really in a pinch and it's going to be really close to, then we can list tickets for sale. We hold that money. We use that money to buy other tickets that we may need elsewhere. But it's a constant struggle, just going back and forth, trying to find those people where we can use them. We're starting to explore more on the internal use, letting employees use tickets. We've done a couple of raffles over the summer. That was an interesting pilot, just to get things used and generate some more excitement around our new NBA program. So it's all of the above and anything, right? Especially when the numbers look bad. It's all hands.
And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, PwC has tickets everywhere, right? So can you talk to some of the strategies and just day-to-day tactics of how you're looking at those allocations and what happens when you have leftovers?
Well, Yeah, we have over 25,000 tickets a year we're dealing with. So yeah, we have a lot that will often go unused. And it's a pain point, I'll be honest, with a lot of our office leaders because they get frustrated, that things are sitting there. Communication is key. We have the office leaders now. They have regular partner communications. They're really calling out tickets there. We also, in a number of our markets, unfortunately, we can't do it with all of them because we don't have a big enough team to do this, but we're being very strategic in advance and looking who are the key clients in the market, have they attended games? If not, then we're reaching out saying, why are you not inviting a client to this event? So we're being very strategic and targeted with core clients in the markets and working with the office leaders on those outreach to try to drive usage. But even with all of that, there's still a lot unused. We recently piloted a program around personal ticket usage, allowing our staff access to tickets. I would tell you that's probably not going to continue for a number of different reasons, but primarily because we were listing tickets for sale, and when we started doing them for personal usage, all of a sudden our revenues from ticket sales in the secondary market went down pretty significantly, enough to make us have to rethink that strategy. But it's a constant pain point, and we're trying beta testing a lot of different programs to see what we can make work and what makes sense.
Well, on the flip side of that too, sometimes your organizations need more, right? Or you need something different that you haven't invested in. So Susan, continue that talk track of what PwC does when you have more demand than you have inventory for.
We evaluate our assets on a usage basis regularly. The great news is we use the VIP service from Ticket Manager, and when we have demands higher than what we have available, we refer people to the VIP system, and they can then purchase tickets through there, and that's really helped a lot, especially for the big things like Super Bowls and things like that. But for the most part, we try to, when we have, and we regularly have multiple requests, and we have to go in and evaluate where's our highest and best use, who are we going to allocate them to, and then we refer the partners back to, hey, check in, see if there's another game that might work for you. We have enough assets that generally it can work, but like I said, otherwise we send them to Ticket Manager's way.
Rob and Jeff, anything to add?
So our sales teams are enabled to go through their normal sort of expense process and acquire their own tickets. We don't have assets around the country like a PwC, so that's pretty common practice in some of the cities where we don't have assets, and tends to work, keeps the controls because they're subject to their budget limitations, et cetera. And we are always looking at what we want to add to our portfolio or change within our portfolio and where the ticket needs come in, and so it's never ending, of course.
Yep.
Well, not to be a Ticket Manager commercial, but the benefit of using their VIP service is we then get reporting as to what's been purchased. So then we can see where the gaps are to say maybe we should be purchasing assets here because we're seeing a big increase in demand. So you're welcome for this. And he didn't ask me to do that. But.
Sorry you didn't win a raffle prize, I don't think. One of the things that we're hearing a lot from our customers and being asked about, and it's the hot topic, is AI. So what are your organizations doing to look at AI and how you not only manage your tickets, but just, we go back to the ROI conversation, right? It's just another tool in the tool set to use. Where are your organizations at with evaluating that as an option?
Cigna is just starting to dip their toe in there. So we're not really, we have Microsoft Copilot, but it's not even embedded in our email yet. So I'm probably not the best person to speak on this one because we're still really early days and haven't really given it a whole lot of thought yet, unfortunately. It'll come.
I can add, we've become a major partner of Microsoft on this front. We're using Copilot in a lot of ways. As far as ticket optimization and data. We are using Copilot within our CRM, right? It could help people find the best opportunities, clients in cities where there may be opportunities. It does definitely cut through a lot of the noise in the data. But as far as, looking at our actual usage and ROI, and we haven't gotten there yet, but we are in the middle of it.
We use your reporting system, which is fabulous, but we've also recently created some automations that's extracting data from the ticket usage dashboards that you create, your analytics dashboards, and bringing it into Power BI dashboards in our system where we can connect the Salesforce data on the back end. So now we can provide our stakeholders with not only data around usage, but also data specific to clients and dollar amounts, pipeline revenues that are tied to those, and marketing influence meetings. So, we just created those dashboards and are excited to see what that looks like. Because that's always been, because we don't have our Salesforce data connected to the ticket manager dashboards currently, so this was our workaround by bringing it in.
Well, we're getting close to time, so to wrap us up, starting with Jeff, if you had to leave the room, the audience, with just one piece of advice about managing tickets in hospitality, what would that be?
Yeah, I think, and this has been said on every panel we've heard today, what we do and why we do this is to create memories and feelings, right? That, at the core of it, that's what we do. And so putting the customer first, like I said, my customers are my sales teams. It needs to be seamless for them so they can be seamless for their customers. Nothing makes me madder during my day if someone calls up like, I couldn't get my ticket, it was really frustrating. That means I failed. So keeping that in mind always, I go out of my way to make sure that that doesn't happen. Just because I want those feelings to come down. I know I've done something right when, 2 months down the road, a salesperson tells me, hey, I ran into Jim, who we hosted somewhere, and we spent 40 minutes talking about the thing we did. Like incredible. Like, that's great. That's gonna lead to something bigger down the road.
Well, Matt, I'll give you a commercial because Susan mentioned it. We signed on with the enhanced analytics this summer, and it was a game changer because I do meet with our executive committee every quarter, and right, having that extra level of data is incredible as far as analytics that we weren't able to see otherwise. And there's a lot of controls, obviously, in a lot of the processes that we've built. But I think your point is right on, right? This is about client experience, building relationships, and unforgettable moments. It's funny, coming after Greeny and all the agony in his sports fandom, I always say concerts are great, no one loses. And so we're a big fan of doing a lot of concert events. And I think that's right. We're trying to find the right intersection of where the client demand is and where we can host. And it's an unbelievable time for this business. And I leave you with that. That's, this is just an unbelievable space to be in.
We agree. Thank you. Susan.
Having an elevated client experience is really important to us because it speaks to our brand and who we are. So that's key. But I think the one piece of advice I would say is make sure you have the right assets in place that align with where your clients are and where you think you can have the most impact in driving business. Make sure that you realistically understand what your goals are and make sure you have methods in place to be able to capture that data so that you can evaluate your success against your goals, because that's going to be key in determining whether you keep, change out, abandon an asset or whatever. But just having a strong plan when you go into it.
Love it. Let's thank our panelists for their time.